Welcome into this wild card recap edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. JP, the pod has had better weekends.
Yeah, I mean, if you saw my social media at around 3:45, 4 p.m. today, we've had better days.
Yeah, me last night with the Packers, I made the mistake, and I'm going to admit this live on air. I made the mistake of saying, my buddy texted me, he's a Lions fan. He said, "You worried about tonight at 1 p.m.?" I said, "Nah, I think the Packers are going to move the ball through the air." I think that they got that. Halftime, I replied to my own text and said, or I said something to the effect of, what did I say? And that was the kiss of death, because the third quarter they came out and looked like absolute dog, you know what, and we'll get to that one later. But it was ugly. It was ugly for both of us, but we will get to those games. Let's start with Sunday Night Football, though, where the Chargers go down at the hands of the Patriots 16-3. A defensive struggle there. And we're going to be giving our big numbers for all the games. And the big number for this one, for me at least, because I can't wait for the discourse, is -22. That is Justin Herbert's career EPA in the playoffs now, through 3 games, the worst of any quarterback in the NFL over the past decade in the playoffs, tied with one guy, actually. Do you have any guess as to who the one guy is?
And we're saying it's minimum of 3 playoff games?
Well, it's just total EPA, so it doesn't matter how many playoff games you play. That's his total EPA in the playoffs, -22.
It's not.
The guy we'll actually see shortly next week.
Is it Sam Darnold?
It's Sam Darnold. He also has a -22 EPA in his playoff career. So Justin Herbert now goes down. But this one, I don't know, man. That offensive line was just abysmal in this game.
So I think a couple things can be true about this game. First of all, the Chargers' offensive line against the Patriots' defensive line was not supposed to be this big of a mismatch.
Yeah.
The Patriots completely overwhelmed them, and I think they could tell that once they started blitzing and forced the Chargers to start playing in one-on-one situations, they could win. The Patriots' blitz rate in this game was 45.5%. That's the highest blitz rate they've had in any game this season. And I think that was a large product. That was largely due to the fact that they didn't have any answers. The Chargers' answers against the blitz this season were Justin Herbert, help us. And I also think, to that point, this was the worst Justin Herbert playoff game. I know, he threw 4 interceptions against the Texans, but you could say the Texans defense as a whole was just more overwhelming than the Chargers offense. This felt a little more even, but still, it just didn't feel like Justin Herbert trusted his receivers downfield. Yes. There was nothing downfield. And I think that's a really good job of the Patriots defense to really force them to check it down, force them to do quick game, force them to take the easy stuff and eat their vegetables as a passing offense, because a lot of their passing game this season has not been quick game. It's been use the run game and then attack downfield, and they weren't able to do that. Nobody could get separation. This was a great game for Chris Gonzalez, who went out of the game with an injury. Carlton Davis had a really good game. Marcus Jones was incredible in the slot. So I think a large part of it was, yes, the offensive line was bad. Yes, Greg Roman had an awful day as a play caller, but I also think this was a really bad Justin Herbert game.
Yeah, not having Amari Hampton obviously hurt, and the running game was just non-existent. In terms of handoffs in this game, 12 handoffs, 30 yards on them. So Justin Herbert led them in rushing yet again, 57 yards for him on the ground. But through the air, just rattled. I mean, got to tip your cap to the Patriots defense. They get paid too, but Justin Herbert, this was it. When you have a guy that, again, the conversation with Justin Herbert isn't, is he a franchise quarterback or not? It's, is he an MVP level, top 4, upper echelon of the NFL quarterback? And yet again, in a situation where you would hope a guy that's like that rises above the supporting cast, he did not. Objectively, he succumbed to it. Succumbed? There we go. What am I talking? But so you have to, like, yes, it's tough, but that is the task. That is what you are asked to do when you are a quarterback of that echelon. And so for as much as he led them here, I think, again, he came up short when it mattered most.
Part of me feels like, yes, like he did not play well, and he was awful today. But I also think, like, again, when we talk about Justin Herbert, franchise quarterback, MVP caliber quarterback, he's played at an MVP level like this season relative to like everything else that every other franchise quarterback has had to do or had to move the ball with on offense. This is like he's pushing up Sisyphus rock when it comes to trying to move the ball. But sometimes when you always ask your quarterback to do the absolute most in every single situation, it ends a lot like what the Chargers game ended up with. The last offensive play we saw the 2025 Chargers season was Justin Herbert getting clotheslined by Milton Williams to finish the game. Like 2 plays after, he got folded in half and fumbled the ball. So I think a large part of it, yes, Justin Herbert still is a franchise caliber quarterback, elite quarterback. But again, the playoff stuff is never going to go away because the QB discourse is never going to go away. But he didn't help himself today. This was a truly very bad performance.
All right, 2 things going forward. The Chargers, then we'll flip to the Patriots for a second. One, they have the most cap space in the NFL right now in 2026. This is going to look like a much different Los Angeles Chargers football team. They don't have a ton of free agents. They got Khalil Mack. They got Zion Johnson, the guard there, Keenan Allen, Tierra Tart, Odafe Owe. That's it in terms of guys that were really making an impact for this football team as starters. So they are going to look much different. They're going to get both their tackles back. Let's pray that it's for an entire season, not only for them, but for Justin Herbert's sake. This will be a very different team. That's 1. 2, is Greg Roman the guy that you want at OC to get this team over the hump then with that very different team we'll see next year?
We will see. I don't think it should be Greg Roman. And the last time Jim Harbaugh was in the NFL, what was his ultimate undoing was leaning on Greg Roman too much. Like he stuck to Greg Roman a little bit too much, and that was his one of the parts of his undoing in San Francisco. Now you have the chance with a franchise caliber quarterback and a lot of cap space. I don't think Keenan Allen is going to be here next year. I think they can get some more just overall team speed and like separation ability at receiver. The defense might look much different depending on if Jesse Minter gets a new job as a head coach. There's going to be a lot of new faces on this team, but I don't think it should be Greg Roman leading this team of new faces next season on offense.
I do think the very last play of the game is a huge indictment on just Roman's shortcomings. It is a 4th and 9, and you have to have a play action fake. Yes, right there in the comments. Everyone saw it, and it's embarrassing to be in the NFL in 2025 and have to. And again, you do the play action fake because that's the play. That's the passing concept. And obviously they don't think they're getting anyone to bite, but like that's the passing concept they like the best in that. And they only have it in the playbook with the play action fake tagged on it. So I just think that is malpractice to be running that in 2025. And it's no wonder why you're coming up short in these 2-minute situations. No wonder why your protections are breaking down in obvious passing situations again and again. It's just because you don't have enough answers in your playbook. And that is, to me, the biggest indictment that you could possibly have for an OC in this day and age.
And the thing with the play action is you use play action so your offensive lineman can get hands on defensive line early. They can jump set them. They can be more aggressive. Zion Johnson lost immediately.
Yeah. Well, no, you're not fooling anyone. Like you'd be aggressive, but they don't have to respect anything. They're not respecting it. So they're just flying off the ball too. So it's actually putting you at a disadvantage to try to take that sort of set in that situation.
And even then, like a couple plays before on the stunt that like Justin Herbert gets folded on that same drive. It's a 3-man stunt with, I believe, Anthony Jennings, Christian Barmore, and then a linebacker. And the left tackle sets far too wide So he can't pass off this stunt at all because there's too much space. And that comes from the fact that Jamari Sawyer's at left tackle, who's normally playing right tackle. But he had to move to left tackle because Joe Alt doesn't play. Joe Alt can't play. Austin Deculus was out. You don't want to play Trevor Penning in a big moment like this. So you're just stuck with guys that have never played next to each other you get 1 week to figure out NFL pass rush concepts for a playoff game. Like, it was never going to happen with this offensive line. And you have to readdress this offensive line in the offseason.
Yeah, they need help on the interior. I think they will address it. It's the one place in this draft that I think you can address it. I don't think you're going to find a tackle, but that's why they drafted two very highly, and they're two very good tackles. Just hope they're healthy. All right, let's get to the Patriots for just a second. Still don't know exactly who they're going to play. Obviously, they'll play their winner of the Monday Night Football game. But Drake May, very first exposure to him in the postseason. Hard not to be impressed. Now, some big mistakes, some bad fumbles in this game, but the ability to bounce back, the ability to create with his legs as he goes for 66 yards on the ground himself. I think the MVP that we saw all season, obviously, is tough Chargers defense. I think there's no reason to think that this guy can't go get you a W, whoever you're facing next week.
Again, QB discourse going to be really bad for both sides coming out of this. But Drake May played fairly well. Again, the fumbles were rough, and that's the biggest thing that I was worried about, especially moving forward with either Pittsburgh or Houston, because the Patriots did not pass off stunts well. And that has always been the problem with Jared Wilson and Will Campbell this season. They didn't pass off stunts well at all in this game or at all this season. It's weird because that's been your starting left tackle and starting left guard since the beginning of the season. That camaraderie should be gelled by now, and they just don't pass off stunts well. Will Campbell had a rough game, but I do think Drake May overcame a lot in this. And I do think that it was an awesome game plan by Jesse Minter to take away all the explosives. You could tell Deion Henley was working his ass off to get downfield and eliminate any of the deep overs, any of the crossing routes, any of the digs that you normally see the Patriots and Drake May hit this season. So Josh McDaniels and May did a really good job of getting the running back out into the concept late. Getting to checkdowns. And I thought Drake May did a good job of just managing the game and then using his scrambles in timely ways to go and win. And on top of that, you were able to get that awesome touchdown throw. And that was a beauty.
That was such a good throw. And it made up for it because he had Henry earlier and just like airmailed him. Awful. It's probably his worst throw of the day, just not even close to where it needed to be. And that one, though, was literally exactly where it needed to be, under duress. You had Deion Henley bearing down on him after getting great pickup from Trayvon Henderson, but still was affecting him, and just puts it right over the first level defender. That was high level quarterbacking stuff that, like, if you're a Patriots fan and you're worried, how's this guy going to handle the prime time? I don't think you should be worried. I'll just say that after this game. All right. We're going to take a break. After that, 49ers-Eagles, Bills-Jags, and then the Saturday games right after this.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
49ers win in Philadelphia, 23-19. What was the big number to know from this one?
The big number for this game was 25%, and that's Jalen Hurts' success rate as a passer in the second half. There were a lot of numbers to choose from this game. I could have chose 40%, which was the Eagles' rushing success rate in the second half, compared to 55% in the second half. But the biggest thing about this game, and I tweeted it out as well, and I also posted on Blue Sky, the Niners had to work so hard just to get the bare minimum of plays. Christian McCaffrey was grinding out yards. He had a great game, obviously, but he had to grind out a lot of plays just to maximize like 6 and 7 yard gains. The Eagles punched themselves in the nuts for 60 minutes and then was like, you know what? We'll just let our defense take over. That can't work anymore. The Eagles need to look themselves in the mirror and decide what they want to be offensively, because this year should not have happened. This year should not happen with as much talent as they have offensively. I know Lane Johnson's out of this game, but look at who's on the defensive side of the ball. Eric Kendricks was making the game-saving play. They had Garrett Wallow at linebacker in this game. Like they're truly on LB8 and LB9 in this game, and you couldn't put the game away. That should sound off more alarm bells for this Eagles team than anything else. It's gonna be a long offseason in Philadelphia. I really do think it's gonna be a long offseason.
That was backups for the 49ers. No George Kittle, no Nick Bosa, no Fred Warner, no Ricky Pearsall. Like, that is no Brandon Ayuk. Like, this is not the 49ers team we thought coming into this year. Objectively, outside of the quarterback position and Christian McCaffrey, I guess that's 5 best players they're down. So 5 of your 6 best non-quarterbacks. The 49ers are down right now. And you beat the Eagles team that, you said they didn't have Lane Johnson, but like, they are still maybe the most talented team in the NFL. I'd say probably still the most talented team in the NFL. They are absurdly, from top to bottom, both sides of the football. And it's crazy. All I could think about the entire game was how the Eagles have Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and they make offense look unexciting. They make offense look difficult. The 49ers have Demarcus Robinson, no one else, and offense looks exciting. Like, they have big plays coming to it. Something is very, very wrong with this Eagles team, and obviously they're going to fire Kevin Patullo, their offense coordinator. But I'm going to float this out there. I think they could realistically trade Jalen Hurts this offseason. I know they're going to trade A.J. Brown. I think he's for sure gone. But when you look at Jalen Hurts' contracts and the escalating cap hits he has, and just the Eagles and the cap situation they're in, with how difficult it's going to be to add to the roster. If this is what the offense looks like with Hurts, and now over the last 3 seasons, 8 other quarterbacks in the NFC have a better EPA per dropback. You have the 9th best quarterback in EPA per dropback with Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, the best offensive line in football in front of you over the past 3 seasons. Not to say that you can't win a Super Bowl again with him. Obviously, you can, and he's still his franchise quarterback. But to pay him the cap hits you're going to pay him, can you win a Super Bowl? Whereas if you could trade him, like what they did with Carson Wentz, and get back, I don't know what you would get in return. Probably still a first rounder at this point. He's won a Super Bowl. You could really hit reset on this roster in a big way, get a lot cheaper, and set yourself up for longer term success when who knows how Jalen Hurts is going to age, because his legs are a big part of his game, and that starts to go when you're in your early and mid-30s.
And that's really where the most confusing thing about this Eagles offense pops up to me. They went out and got Saquon Barkley because they wanted to take more off of Jalen Hurts' legs. But when the run game isn't working, like the designed run game is not working for the Eagles, you have to use Jalen Hurts as a runner. And this entire season, it felt like the Eagles and Kevin Patullo, Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni were all saying they're just waiting for the playoffs to flip that switch. The offense is going to flip the switch. They're going to press the button. And I was assuming that button would be more Jalen Hurts design runs because he's now fully healthy. In this game, he had 4 design rushes for 11 yards. That's just not going to cut it for Jalen Hurts, where his entire thing is he can make defenses have to bring a safety into the box because you are a +1 in the run game. That's how the Eagles offense is built. They're built on using the threat of Jalen Hurts as a runner. And if you're not going to use that, you have to be able to shred teams in quick game. If your run game isn't working, to get them out of too high. And the Eagles just don't do that. Jalen Hurts is not a quick game passer, outside of the RPOs, which even then the RPOs have gone down this season. So we're left with no design QB run game, no RPOs, no quick game, no run game. And that's how you get an offense that looks like what it does. Like, the meme where it's on TikTok, it's like Saquon up the middle, Saquon up the middle, AJ Brown deep ball, incomplete. That's how you get to that point with the Eagles offense, because you have no answers to get teams out of too high once the run game stops working, because you're not using Jalen Hurts to his full ability. Like, if you're going to have Jalen Hurts and say like he is a true dual threat, you should use him as a dual threat.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of blame to go around for Philly. That's just, it was a disaster this year offensively. Truly, for the talent they have to be that unproductive is embarrassing. And I think big changes will be made. I wouldn't even put out the possibility of Nick Sirianni being gone, given how this is 2 of the last 3 seasons. Yeah, you won the Super Bowl in one of them, but 2 of the last 3 seasons have ended almost like embarrassingly down the stretch with how ugly it's just been offensively. So we'll see what happens with them. But on the flip side of the 49ers, this is just, I mean, Kyle Shanahan in his absolute bag at his best. And I'll say this about Brock Purdy. He made some dumb throws in this game. He makes dumb throws in every game. But the guy has no conscience. He will make the dumbest throw you've ever seen and then be willing to make that exact same throw if it presents itself the next drive, but it's not like there's not a defender in the window. He really just does not care. And in some ways, that's kind of the perfect Shanahan quarterback, is that he just never gets tight. He never plays tight, and that'll win you games sometimes when you get the high end of his variance.
I think the thing with Brock Purdy that's the most fun, like you said, is he's going to make some really stupid throws. Like, he made some really stupid throws in this game. He made a couple throws that probably should have been intercepted. First of all, I don't think the wind helped him at all in this game.
Oh,
there were a lot of passes were dying. Yeah, a lot of passes were dying early. But where he really impressed me in this game was his pocket movement. Even though, like, the Eagles had ferocious pass rush, even though they were able to really get after the 49ers offense, Brock Purdy only took 1 sack. And on the game-winning touchdown to Christian McCaffrey, he showed a lot of really good pocket movement in that moment, where he's able to step up and away from Nolan Smith and get back to the other side with Christian McCaffrey on the angle route. I just think that was really impressive QBing. And like you said, like, he is a flawed quarterback, but he's also going to make those type of plays that you never saw from a 49ers quarterback under Kyle Shanahan. But this has been Kyle Shanahan's best coaching year. I still am of the belief that he is the coach of the year because of all the stuff that the 49ers have gone through injury-wise. They've missed almost everybody on offense. George Kittle tears his Achilles in this game, which is brutal for them going forward. But given what he's had to overcome, what this Niners team has had to overcome, and this has been the best offensive coaching year for Kyle Shanahan this year. Like, the fact they're even here it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. Like, I've like written this team off. I wrote them off truthfully after like the Warner injury. I was like, okay, what are you going to do? And it's kind of how I felt about the Packers. Parsons goes down. You have a player that impactful. It's just like, are you really going to still go out and win playoff games with 49ers? You're missing all these guys. You're really going to still go be, one of the best teams in the NFL? Yeah, apparently they are. So hats off to San Francisco. They'll obviously be going to Seattle. Line on that already out 7.5. We'll preview that game a little bit later in the show. But the Kittle injury, that one's tough because they just extended him. He's 32 years old. And at this date, this late in the process, that could be your 2026 season down the drain, unfortunately, with an injury like that.
It feels sort of like the old guard of the 49ers offense is slowly starting to like filter its way out. Trent Williams is fantastic. He had a fantastic game against the Eagles, but we don't know how long he's going to keep doing this. George Kittle, like you said, 32 years old, going to be 33, trying to recover from a torn Achilles. Christian McCaffrey's not going to be getting any younger, and he's going to be coming off of one of like the most impressive seasons when it comes to just volume and touches that I think I've ever seen. But it's going to be tough for this Niners offense, for this Niners team next year, especially if Bosa and Warner don't come back anywhere near 100%. But look, man, you're still in the dance. Shout out to Juwan Jennings, who had the longest pass of the game. That was an incredible play, by the way. And it was a
former 4-star quarterback recruit, Juwan Jennings.
Yeah, he was a higher rated quarterback than Joe Burrow. People forget that. Yeah. It was an incredible sell by Juwan Jennings too. He really tucked the ball and pretended like he was going to run with it, and he threw that pass under pressure. Like Jalen Carter hit him immediately after making the throw, and it's a beautiful pass too. Like Christian McCaffrey really like extends like over his shoulder. It felt like watching something out of a movie. Like at that point, I think I like posted like if the Eagles lose this, Vic Fangio gets to fight Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni. But I still believe that, but it was an awesome play by Juwan Jennings.
That's a good take about something on movie. That's how like the game-winning touchdown in the state finals of like the high school football movie. That's how it goes. It's the trick play, and then he's diving for it. It's just everything possible that could be crazy about it happens, and well, that's how it worked out for the 49ers. All right, we have to do it, JP. I don't want to, but we have to. Bills 27, Jaguars 24.
That sucked. I'm not gonna lie to you. That was as a fan, that was a mentally and emotionally draining game. But as an objective football watcher, that game was incredible. Like I think that this was, this was one of Josh Allen's best games in the playoffs, just for everything that went wrong for the Bills going into this game. You don't have Maxwell Hairston. You don't have Terrell Bernard. You don't have Ty Johnson in this game. Frank Gore Jr. is getting snaps in this game. Gabe Davis goes out of this game with an injury. He is getting beat up in this game. Like he is getting physically like hammered.
Oh my gosh.
This was the most physical game of the playoffs so far, because the Jaguars and the Bills, they were hitting out there, and Josh Allen overcame all of that, and he made a couple of really nice throws. The Brandon Cooks play, to the big Brandon Cooks play on the 2-minute drive that it set up the go-ahead touchdown. That play, a lot of people blame Greg Newsome. I blame Greg Newsome in that, like in the moment. That play is actually not Greg Newsome's fault. The Jaguars are trying to spin the cover 2 out of a single high coverage, and they're playing 2 read to that side. So they're both looking at the eyes. They're both looking at the steps of the second receiver. But because he runs his route at a deeper depth, somebody's got to go make the play on the ball. And I think it's Antonio Johnson. Antonio Johnson gets too aggressive trying to play that second receiver, can't get back to his deep half. That's how you get a wide open Brandon Cooks. So it's just a couple of coverage busts that haven't been exploited for the Jaguars leading up to this game that really sucks, because the Jaguars offense moved the ball in the second half. They had a great second half throwing the football. I thought they struggled in the first half, and I think the Bills' game plan was really good to eliminate the explosive passes. My number of the game, my big number of the game, since we're getting around to that late, is the Jaguars had 2 passing completions over 20+ yards, which is the lowest that they've had since week 11. They've been cashing out in big bills in this game. And what the Bills did was eliminate the middle of the field. They played Tampa 2. They would spin into it late. That was the interception that Trevor Lawrence threw on the first play. Not the first play. His first interception was he threw the ball late. But they did a really good job of focusing on eliminating the middle of the field and eliminating Jacoby Myers. It forced him to go outside. It forced him to go to Parker Washington. There really wasn't a lot of Brian Thomas Jr. outside of the first touchdown. And I sort of figured that without Hairston, you could really get him involved. But honestly, like as a fan, it sucked, but I'm optimistic. Like they played that game close. They had the lead, and it was a couple coverage busts, and Cam Little missed a 54-yard kick that he normally makes. So it's just tough. It's tough.
And for the Bills, you had Shaq Thompson making plays. You had Tre'Davious White making plays. I had to check what year it was after that last play, because you don't expect You don't expect Tre'Davious White at this point in his career to be sticking with Jacoby Myers on a route like that. It's hard to blame Trevor Lawrence. I mean, like, yeah, it ends up in an interception. Yeah, it was a tight window, but it's just like, trust your guy. And unfortunately, Trey White got the better of your guy in that game. It was, you got to tip your cap to the Bills because I think defensively, like I said, on the back end, they were just putting a cap on this Jags offense. Tough. I'm sorry, man. Sorry about it.
It's tough, but again, like the biggest thing that I didn't want to say, and I actually posted this on Twitter, is the biggest lie you can tell yourself as a fan is they'll be back next year, because you probably won't. But I also think that this Jaguars team and this Jaguars front office has shown that they won't get complacent. And that's the biggest reason why a lot of teams who say they'll be back next year end up not making it back next year, because they think they can just run it back. But this team has too many important free agents. They have too many big deals to give out. I'm not sure what happens with Devin Lloyd or Travis Etienne. We had the Travis Hunter thing. That's still like moving forward. Is he more of a receiver or defensive back? I think he should be a DB. Like I think the offense is fine. The offense will be fine without Travis Hunter full time at receiver. But if you're going to miss Buster Brown, who is a free agent, if you're going to miss Greg Newsome, who is also a free agent, you need another outside corner. And it sort of feels like it's leaning that way. So they have a lot of questions to answer, but I do think this Jaguars team, this Jaguars front office has shown they're not going to be complacent. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Okay, before we go, I had a really dumb theory in the middle of this game that I want to hear your take on. What spurred it was, one, I thought the Jags were going to come back and win on that final drive, because that's like how it always happens. Josh Allen. I feel like every Josh Allen game is he makes the first strike, and then the counter strike happens. Then he just doesn't have enough time, or it's like it's over. But because of that, what do you think of Josh Allen? Because he's such a talented athlete. I mean, he's just the guy could have played, any position. He could play tight end. He could play defensive end. What do you think about him spending an offseason dedicating himself to learning some pass rushing moves? And say it's the AFC Championship game, say it's the Super Bowl. He's been doing this all offseason. He comes in on that last drive. That last drive, he just comes in and he helps get that stop. Like, he does it literally at all for the Buffalo Bills, because this time they got it, but more often than not, they don't get it. And whether it's because they can't rush the passer or other reasons, I think it's worth exploring if you're Josh Allen.
I think it's an interesting thought in theory, but you just worry about him getting chipped and just his ribs like falling apart.
Dude, he took some shots in this game, though.
If he
didn't go out after those, I think he'd be fine.
He went to the locker room. He came back. Of course, Josh Allen's going to stay in a game because he is the quarterback and he's also Josh Allen, but he took a lot of nasty hits in this game. That's something I'm going to be watching moving forward, because I still don't think the Bills' offensive line played that great, and the Jaguars' defense handled that run game. They played a monster game against the run. It was just, again, it was a couple coverage busts, and then offensively, I wanted to ask you, actually, what did you think about the lack of rushing? Because they were killing the Bills on the ground, and then it sort of went away in the middle of the game.
Romo was even calling for it, and that was surprising because they had out wide whatever they wanted, it seemed like, and I don't want to say they wanted to force it with Trevor, but it felt like they really wanted to get him on track. And it just never quite worked out. But I was surprised because it felt like they had a good thing going that they just didn't go to the well enough on.
So that's actually sort of what I thought. Watching the game, it looked like Trevor Lawrence was just canning the play. Okay. Like when you give the quarterback so much liberty at the line of scrimmage to can, so he would get under center, he would can it, go to shotgun. And I think they're just getting favorable looks in quick game, which I understand. Like, you don't want him to not can a play, but at some point it's like, it works. Like, you got to stick with it. You don't have to can everything.
We'll see. Good. I mean, like, if you're a Jags fan, and you can't tell yourself to be back next year because it's going to be a very different team. They have some big free agents. They inherited a bad cap situation. They inherited a tough job. But you have to understand that, like, with Liam Cohen, you're going to get your best shot. Like, you're going to maximize that roster seemingly. So that's, if you're a Jags fan, at least at minimum, you have that to take away from him. Whereas the Packers, on the other hand, lost to the Bears on Saturday night, 27-31. We don't have to go too deep into the game. The game speaks for itself at this point. But I want to hear your thoughts on Matt LaFleur.
Oh, boy. I would not be checking social media if I was Matt LaFleur. And, of course, a lot of people are going to immediately go to blame the defense because, yeah, if you go from 21-6 to losing 31-27, like, yes, that is really bad. But the Packers had 6 yards on 7 carries in the second half. That just isn't going to cut it when you're up 21-6. The way teams lose leads like that, the way historic comebacks happen is when you have to throw the ball a lot and you can't ice the game. It felt like the Bears and Dennis Allen a little bit. I was shredding Dennis Allen in the first half because they kept playing man coverage and kept getting burnt in it. And then in the second half, they sort of like goaded the Packers into trying downfield shots and man coverage to sort of get them to like play that variance game so they could get the ball back to the offense, which it worked. But I think Matt LaFleur is a very good coach who, again, when you lose Micah Parsons, Devontae Wyatt, and for a stretch of this game, Edgerrin Cooper, 3 of your most explosive defenders are in the front seven are gone. It's hard to win games that way. And then you also have the loss of Elton Jenkins on the offensive side of the ball. You don't have Tucker Kraft. It's very fair to say, like, yeah, he deserves another year in Green Bay. But with the way that it ended, being up 21-6 against the Bears, I think the fact that it's the Bears makes it a lot worse than the fact that it was 21-6.
21-3, actually, at one point. That was and it's all too familiar, one. Two, they've been the 7 seed 3 straight years. If the 7 seed didn't exist, I don't even think we're having a debate right now. Like, if they never expanded the playoffs, I don't think LaFleur would be the head coach right now. And I do just think he has a energy to him that is not a calming sort of, hey, we got this guy's energy. He has kind of a harsh energy. Like, and I felt like the team played tight. Like, they looked tight out there. And I think that comes from the top down. And I think if you have, again, it's not LaFleur, or is he better than the average coach in the NFL? Yes. I think he's a great offensive play caller. I think he's, or I don't want to say necessarily play caller, but I think he's a great offensive designer. And I think that's his strength. Biggest strength, one of the best in the NFL. But if you have the opportunity for a guy like John Harbaugh, and the reports managed after being that John Harbaugh's agent is related, I believe, to Kevin Harlan, I think was the report, former Packers CEO. I feel like Harbaugh is the opposite of LaFleur in that regard. Harbaugh is that steady in presence. Harbaugh is the guy who's going to always rally the troops and that sort of thing. So I don't know. I can see why a lot of Packers fans are mad, but just because it's seemingly the same story every single year with LaFleur without much in the way of that changing.
And it sucks because Jordan Love played really well in this game. Like, this game had the best quarterback battle. There were some throws made in this game, and Jordan Love, he almost had one of the best throws I've seen of the year. It was the Christian Watson one, and then I think it was the Watson deep dig to almost end the game that he just missed on. Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
That was incredible. The passes he was throwing downfield, the slot fades, he was on it for the entire game. But, I really do feel like in the second half, the Bears realized like they can still hammer these cover 2 looks. And what was really frustrating Chicago was they were moving the ball, but they weren't efficient running the football. So they kept trying to do all the tricky designer stuff to try and get the run game going. And in the second half, Ben Johnson was like, you know what? Just let Caleb cook. And he made some real big boy throws. Everybody talks about the 4th and 8 went to Roma Dunze, which, oh my God, was insane. But there's a deep corner route they throw when the Packers try and spin into Tampa 2 late in the game to Colston Loveland. And he puts it like in the bucket over Carrington Valentine. And those are the type of throws that you don't see. You don't really get from the far hash from a lot of NFL quarterbacks. That's the stuff that you want to see from Caleb Williams, that downfield playmaking. That's what you want to see. And it's really exciting because the Bears can score with anybody. They can be scored on by anybody. But if they can turn the game into like a 31-27, 38-34, they got as good a shot as anybody.
I think they're one of the most interesting teams in the NFL because they're, I don't want to say playing a different game than everyone else, but they're so aggressive. I mean, that passing game is just like, it's feast or famine. And that can put up 25 points in a fourth quarter, right? That can hit you. They have the ability that not a lot of other teams have to hit you 45-second drive and it's touchdown. When everyone else in the NFL is playing this ball control, I mean, like the Packers do, where it's just like, we're going to methodically get down the football field. Well, Bears, they can do that with the running game, but that's not what the offense is built through the air. So I'm curious to see how they fare against the Rams next weekend. We'll preview that one, though, in a little bit. Speaking of the Rams 34-31, hang on in a tight one over the Carolina Panthers in a game that was a lot closer than the 10.5-point spread going into it. Good job, good effort, Panthers. Good job, good effort.
This was almost an F around and find out game. Like the Rams effed around after they went up 14. And I thought it was a really good job by Dave Canales. And again, I just want to give credit to the Panthers, especially Canales and Ejiro Evero, who changed his stripes in the second half. As someone who has sort of critiqued Evero's lack of willingness to blitz, even when the pass rush just isn't getting there, the timely blitzes in the second half, they played more man coverage and sort of willed Matthew Stafford into making some boneheaded throws. The fact that he was able to change his stripes was really cool. And then Dave Canales never wavered. He never backed off. And I think that the fact that they were able to get some real, like, these receivers physically overwhelmed the Rams DBs. Like, this was, if you were not a Jalen Coker fan before this game, hop on the bandwagon. I have been a fan of Jalen Coker since he was at Holy Cross. This was awesome to see him and McMillan just hammer the Rams on digs, in breakers, just physically moving the DBs. I think that was super cool, and you're building something for the Panthers. But unfortunately, like, you got Stafford, and he made the dig to Devontae Adams or Christian Roseboom gets no-looked. Playing linebacker is so hard. I hope people understand that playing linebacker in the NFL is so freaking hard because Christian Roseboom is in the right place, but gets no look to 20 yards downfield. And then the Colby Parkinson go-ahead touchdown, that you can't defend that any better.
I think the scariest thing about this Rams team, that was a C- game from Stafford. D+. It was not a good Stafford game.
Yeah.
You had Puka Nacua drop a walk-in touchdown before the half. And they scored 34 points. And they scored 34 points with a average game from your quarterback and your star wide receiver dropping an easy touchdown. That's just that they're just a house offensively. You take away one thing, and they pop up somewhere else. It's like a whack-a-mole. It's like take away one mole, two other more pop up, and you got to keep hitting them. But it's damn near impossible because they got moles all over the place. So, yeah, Rams, they will be in the mix, and we'll see them against the Bears. That's probably my favorite matchup next week. Well, let's get to all those matchups. We'll take a quick break, preview them off after this.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
That is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But thanks to CBS Sports, you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Start with Bills at Broncos. Bills 1.5-point favorites. 47.5 points is the over/under in this one.
I think this was the Broncos' least preferred matchup coming out of the wild card weekend because the Bills match up so favorably with the Broncos. They physically overwhelmed the Broncos. And I know the Broncos have a very good run defense, but where the Broncos and Jaguars sort of differ in their run defense is the Jaguars play heavier on the edge. Mm-hmm. They're able to sort of withstand where like a lot of the Bills tried to run a lot of zone tosses and the Jaguars just ate them for like 2 yards. Those are the type of plays that happened last year for the Bills-Broncos game that were going for 8-10 yards. You know, that's how they're able to run all over the Broncos last year. And then I think that this is going to be a very, very important test for Bo Nix because the Broncos have not run the ball well lately. And that's the way you beat this Bills defense is you run the ball at them. But because they don't have J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey hasn't been that good in that way, in the way that J.K. Dobbins was. There's going to be a lot more pressure on Bo Nix. And I think that was my biggest worry going into the playoffs is the run game doesn't do enough to help Bo Nix. Because Bo Nix is a fine quarterback, but when you're counting on Bo Nix to throw the ball 40 times in a playoff game, he's going to do something dumb. And it's a bad matchup because they don't have that built-in run game to take advantage of this light Bills defensive front.
I'm right there with you that I agree it's a bad matchup because you also got the Broncos superpower on the back end is Patrick Surtain can take out anyone, right? Who do you even want to take out for the like? Who are you going to try to take out? Like Khalil Shakir? All he gets is like smoke screens. All he gets is like 12 catches for 83 yards this week. He doesn't get.
That's insane.
Take away that, the offense might improve. So there's really no that ability doesn't even seemingly phase this Bills offense. So 1.5-point favorites. I'm trying to think of the last time. I just asked AI here. The last time a number 1 seed in the divisional round was a underdog.
I would not be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised in this game if Pat Surtain gets the Dalton Kincaid matchup. Like if you just lock him on Kincaid. It will be new because Kincaid is largely like I don't think they're going to flex Kincaid out wide. So are you just going to have him shadow and just hope like you let Riley Moss and Jaquan McMillan handle Shakir and Brandon Cooks apparently, or do you just lock them on one side and sort of just play halves? So I'm going to be curious how Vance Joseph chooses to defend this Bills team because they have to stop the run. If you can slow down that run game, you can at least make it close. You can at least make it uncomfortable for the Bills.
Difference though this year, Talanoa Hufanga, pretty big upgrade for that running game. He needs to have a big one. Broncos going to win. Let's get to 49ers at Seahawks. Seahawks 7.5-point favorites. 45.5 is the over/under. Just saw this one a couple weeks ago.
I feel, even though the Niners pulled off a great game against the Eagles, I feel a little less confident going into this one. I do because George Kittle isn't going to be in this game. You don't have the George Kittle effect on the ground. And I think that Mike McDonald, for some reason, has just sort of like Mike McDonald has given Brock Purdy some problems. Now, I'm not going to say like he has his number because obviously like that wouldn't be fair to the games that like Brock Purdy's played well in, but he can frustrate Brock Purdy. And I think that this pass rush is able to get after him. And I just think it's crazy to say, but the Seahawks finding ways in the run game, I think they're going to find a little more sustainability in the run game than the Eagles did in this game. And I think I trust Sam Darnold more than a Jalen Hurts and Kevin Patullo led unit in the passing game against the 49ers. Eventually, the lack of numbers and bodies on the defensive side of the ball has to pose an issue.
Yeah, I don't see much reason to think it will be much different than last time. I mean, I think the reasons actually even point to the Seahawks for it to be different from last time is that the 49ers even lost guys from there. So I actually found the last time a number 1 seed was underdogs in the divisional round. It was the Eagles when they had Nick Foles.
Oh, wow.
You don't know how that turned out, so maybe that's a good sign for the Denver Broncos.
Hey, anything can happen.
All right, last game here, because we don't know who's going to be playing the Patriots at this point. Rams at Bears. Rams, 3.5-point favorites. 50.5 points is the over-under in this one.
If you want to watch this game, watch for the dig routes. Watch the middle of the field. That's where this game is going to be won. And you sort of draw inspiration for this game if you're the Bears. And if you're a Bears fan, draw inspiration for this game from the Lions game the Rams played this year, where Amon-Ra St. Brown went off for like 3.4 yards per route run against the Rams. They're still susceptible to passes over the middle of the field because they just don't have the bodies at linebacker in coverage. But you can say the same thing on the flip side for the Rams and the Bears defense, where I just don't know if the Bears want to play man coverage against this team. I really don't, because if you're playing man coverage against this Rams team, I just don't want Devontae Adams just slicing guys up in man coverage. So finding out how either team is going to get a stop is going to be huge in this game. It could be like first stop wins.
That's my one biggest take. If we aren't doing locks for the playoffs, but 50.5 feels low for that number. I think by game time that one will be up to 52.5, 53.5. That's just, I don't think this is a low scoring football game. Like you said, I don't think there's going to be a lot of stops. These offenses are they're too loaded. They are both too loaded at this point. And again, I think Ben Johnson and Sean McVay, you have loaded offenses with play callers that are going to be putting together game plans that are probably pretty damn good at this point in time. All right, we're going to take a break. After that, going to do a quick Monday Night Football preview, and then we'll get out of here.
The new era of UFC on Paramount Plus comes out swinging. The highlight machine collides with the Liverpool Phenom, and the Hall of Famer returns to take on the Bantamweight champion. UFC 324, Saturday, January 24th, only on Paramount Plus.
All right, Texans 3-point favorites on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's been more road teams so far than home teams. 38.5 points is the over-under. How do we see it going?
The biggest question for this game is if the Steelers skill position players can break tackles. Because I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to throw the ball downfield against this defense, against this pass rush. I think it's going to be a very similar game to I can't remember all of them for the Steelers this season, but this is going to be an Aaron Rodgers quick game, check down there, and just try and live we're going to get 6 offensive linemen on the field. We're going to try and dump the ball off to Kenneth Gainwell, Jalen Warren. I do not know if he's gonna hold on to the ball for more than 2.5 seconds in this game, because if he does, it's probably ending in a sack or a negative play.
I don't think we're getting a vintage Rodgers playoff performance in this one.
No, absolutely not. I think this is a Aaron Rodgers, please don't hit me type of game, because the Texans can just close in so quickly, and that's why I think tackling is such a big thing, because the Steelers live and survive off of these broken tackles, making guys miss. Kenneth Gainwell, Jalen Warren, they all can make guys miss after the catch or after contact. The Texans, if they tackle well, they should be able to get this Steelers offense off the field a lot.
Yeah, I think for the Steelers to win, it's going to need to be a 3 turnover game. Stroud did not fumble much. He protected the ball really well this year, only 2 fumbles all season. I don't see that being how they get them, but they're going to need to get turnovers to have a chance in this one, in my opinion. I think the Texans win going away.
I think the Texans win. I don't think it's going away. I think this is going to be a slog, because the Texans, when they're not creating those 1 or 2 explosives every game, have not moved the ball. Like this is sort of, I hate to say it like this, but it feels like these two teams are like mirror images of each other. But the Texans are the Steelers from like 3 years ago or like 4 years ago, where like this defense can absolutely win them games. This defense can win them the game against the Steelers. But if the offense cannot create just one explosive or sustain one drive, you get worried.
Could look a lot like the game we just saw on Sunday Night Football. All right, there you have it. Wild card almost in the books. We'll be back on Tuesday to recap that Monday night game, to look ahead as well. Until then, keep pushing.